we can get going. Thanks everybody for taking some time out of a busy season to be here. Oh, I don't see Mike here yet. We should probably wait for him.
I was just gonna say that he's missing.
Yeah. I know he's gonna be here. Hi, Jen.
Done.
All right, well, hopefully Mike will join us in a minute. Why don't we take a second then to just talk about the calendar for the rest of the year? Is this time of day working okay for people? I know we're always kind of yeah, I mean, the 2 time slots we put on. Hi.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. I'm the only one in the store at the moment. My help just left, and I have some people in the store. Anything between 10 and 6 is never going to be convenient for me. So, but I'll just, as long as you don't mind that I'm here, but often muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that unless we meet in the mornings. Is that better for people?
So as long as you don't mind, I mean, and sometimes it will be fine, but sometimes it's not. So
yeah. What if we did like 8:30 in the morning? Would that be better for people or worse? I know then we have people trying to get kids to school. So that's.
mine gets a little, it wasn't last year, but mine gets a little easier because I have one going to high school. So she'll take the bus and the other one can walk herself to school, once a month. I mean, she'll probably end up wanting to walk anyway. So I can actually do the 8:30 this fall.
Dawn,
I can do 8:30 this fall too, because both of mine get on the bus at 7:15 now.
Dawn, what about
How
you?
long are, as long as we're meeting virtually, I'm fairly flexible. It's
Yeah,
when we go back to in-person that
Yeah, same here.
we'll need some more.
Mark, what do you think?
I guess I have a question. Number 1, Wednesdays are tough because of the business partnership.
Right.
Number 2, I think I had actually in my brain that we were meeting from noon to 1. Was that an aberration or?
It was a one-time thing. Does that
That we
generally
started
work out better for you?
Yeah, 12 to 1 is fine.
I think that was our original time back in the old days. Was
So-
noon on Wednesday.
Because we would meet and bring lunch too if we needed
Yeah.
to.
Well, all right. Why don't we send out a doodle poll again and see what comes back?
But
And- Go ahead, Mark.
um,
Go ahead,
can
Mark.
we do like either the second Wednesday or maybe can we just stay away from the first Wednesday of the month?
I agree completely because
Yep.
there's too many meetings. Doesn't have to be a Wednesday either, but
I also was thinking that, part of the beauty of this committee is the variety that we have represented. So could it be that we have 2 times, rotating times, like some months we meet, as long as it's on a schedule and we send out invites, could we make sure that, 8:30 in the morning works for retail, so it's good for Jen and, and maybe a lunchtime meeting works for some, if we can pick maybe even from 2 times, I don't know what the validity is there, but it seems that might help us get a more representative sample for each meeting, even though we may not be able to get 100% at every meeting.
no, that's a good point. All right. Just a little bummed out that I don't see Mike here. I know.
I just texted him, so I don't know. I'll wait and see if I hear back.
Oh. Thanks, Mary.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right, so yeah, we'll avoid it, the first, so the business partnership's always the first week of the month, right, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah, so second week of the month is okay for everybody and we'll
That's when
toggle.
we do, but that's when we do the board meeting.
Right.
How about the third week of the month? Yeah, all right, third week of month.
Except for November.
Thanks, Don. All right.
Because we have Thanksgiving. All right. Oh, my goodness. The wheels of justice turn slowly. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to just have to get started. Beth, why don't we start with you and town updates?
Sure. So I'm happy to share that our trolley is now at week 4. The shuttle service began sort of quietly July 2nd, and we knew it would take us a few weeks. We've never done this before, to work out some schedule and kinks and get to know the drivers and the stops and find out who's using them. But the good news is we are starting to see some patterns of ridership. Some days we're seeing 20 to 30 people ride per day. The heat in this case did help us. I did a little summary for the select board meeting for Monday. So Mary, this will probably be a repeat for you. But our ridership is growing, and we are struggling with things like the MBTA schedule being difficult to pin down. So the drivers are having to sort of try to figure out if the train has come. Sometimes the MBTA live updates and on delays are not accurate. So it's hard for the shuttle driver to necessarily know if the train's been there. We want to make sure they're waiting for those passengers, because we are seeing the most of the people are getting on at either the train station or the visitor center in downtown. And they are getting off all over the place, which is really good news. So it's 1s and 2s, but they're getting off. They're going to West Concord to shop. They are going to the Orchard House, and then they're stopping and doing more. The biggest step off is exactly as we expected it to be with the North Bridge and the visitor center itself. It is very much still a work in progress, and we just make sure when we're giving visitor information, we actually are not giving out printed schedules. We're giving them the QR code, which allows us, if we need to make changes to the website. And visitors are just being instructed that it might be a few minutes behind. So we may be tweaking things as we go. Now that we're full the first 4 weeks, Erin Stevens, who's the contact for Joseph's, who's the transportation vendor, we are going to talk to them, get some feedback from the drivers directly. We have been doing some surveying. Our intern Eliza has written a bunch of times, and those people that are willing to take the survey have 100% reported highly satisfied. So that's a really, really strong report. Even though ridership is low, we're getting good vibes and good reports. So I'll take that as a start. And on Monday, this past Monday, we submitted the big grant, which is for the Federal Land Access Program. It is Lexington, the towns of Lexington, Concord, and Lincoln, along with the National Park. So Erin submitted that grant, which, if granted, would cover approximately 3 years of the shuttle, with following the recommendation from the Volpe study. So we had incredible letters of support. I see Greg just popped on, the business partnership. Renata at the Mass Audubon, our select board and town manager wrote a letter. The other towns managers all wrote letters, trustees. So we have a really strong case, and we're just crossing our fingers. It will be a long time before we have the results of that. But we are sort of constantly monitoring for other grants that might help us, different programs that are coming on the market. So I say it's a successful first month. You know, we have a lot to learn and a lot to figure out along the way. But I'm pretty excited so far with what we're seeing.
That's great. Beth, I really want to commend you. You are such a force and a voice for tourism, and I'm just blown away by what you've achieved. And I think you're almost at your 3-year mark, right?
Almost August 19th.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
I am
Really.
far from alone in this project, but it has been something that I have been aggressively pushing for, because I know that it's worthy. I know it's been looked at for years and years and years before I got here. So I feel like I just took up the torch from people that started it.
Well, and I think you're really good at building a network. So
thank you.
Thanks.
The other little note from the town is this Saturday is the Sidewalk Celebration. That is a partnership with the Chamber. Hi, Marie. in the town. So it is in all three business districts. We will have music, and a lot of vendors are doing sales. Some are just doing information. The Transportation Advisory Committee has a table. There's a couple of local artists that will be out. We have some music on Walden Street. Make sure we go visit our friends in West Concord. They are under a lot of duress with the construction. Our intern for the chamber went today and did a big promotion and got a bunch of photos to hopefully encourage more shopping in West Concord. You can get there. There's an end of the tunnel. The shuttle's getting there twice a week, twice a day, and 3 times on the weekend. So we're really thrilled. There's been a bit of a buzz about it with the Concord solstice. So I'm really excited to see. It looks like the rain's going to hold off and be Friday and not Saturday. So we'll just cross our fingers. Just a reminder that Walden Street's closed to through traffic approximately 9 a.m. and will open back up at 4, but access to all municipal parking lots will remain accessible.
That's great. Looking forward to it. Looks like a lot of fun. Jen?
Are any streets in West Concord shut down or no?
No, that you can use your sidewalk. Most of you can. It just became so difficult with the construction even.
That's fine. I have to say, don't believe I've had any impact from the construction. Great. So I'm guessing it must be more, but even when I've driven, because I'm going to get my kids' places going through West Concord, I haven't seen it, except maybe Neshoba.
Neshoba's been tough, and sometimes ComAv, like we've had some reports from the shuttle drivers. Marsha can probably, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the National Grid is going to start their work with the connecting businesses on the other portion of Commonwealth Ave next week on Monday. So that might have an impact. It'll be from the Harrell Street down to Neshoba Bakery. They will be tying in, they're tying services into one main and trying to eliminate another. So it may start impacting you. National Grid has held up the construction process overall, but Neshoba Bakery has used this time to replace some of their connections to the main street. So they'll be able to connect readily once that moves forward.
Is there anything that we can think of in terms of this committee to help support? I feel so bad for West Concord. It was just like right as you're coming out of the pandemic, to have this happening. I'm glad to see the shuttle is there. Is there anything else that we can be doing or recommending? I know Concord Together is still meeting, I think, quarterly. So maybe they'll come up with some sort of fun promotion or something to get people out to West Concord, but is there anything else that we can be doing?
Well, we've got a couple of events coming up. The West Concord Junction Cultural District is planning an unveiling of an industrial mural on 30 Harrell Street for September 24th. That is also Porch Fest, and we'll be working to get people to park and walk up to the West Concord residential area. But the hope is the unveiling is at 11 a.m. and then there'll be a break. Hopefully people will stop and shop and get food and then head up for Porch Fest, which I believe starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're trying to promote both at the same time. It's going to be a phenomenal mural. It's 8 feet tall by 24 feet long. We'll be going on 30 Harrell Street right across from the post office. That's one. And then later in October is Discover West Concord Day. And I believe that this same group is working with the business community over there to really promote that weekend as well. I think it's October 15th.
Yeah, we're doing the same, and we are running tours of West Concord that really showcase the industrial and the food. I also have recommended a couple of locations in West Concord to a production company that is doing some still photography for Expedia. So they are going to come the end of August, and I gave them a very long list of shots that they could get. But they're really interested in food as well as sort of just the centers, economic centers, and cultural vitality. So I will let everybody know if they're chosen, but I did give them a really long list, and they are working through their permitting process. And that being said, today and tomorrow and yesterday, we have Road Masters, which is a Road Trip Masters, which is a Netflix film, a Netflix series. You can look them up. They did tag us today. The Concord Museum put up a post about them. They drive around in an old gold Cadillac convertible. If you've seen them, they're staying at Rebecca's house as part of the Colonial Inn. They've been here since Monday night. They've done the Concord Museum. They were fortunate to go up to the top of Hawthorne's tower, so to speak, at the Wayside. And this morning they met myself and a tour guide in Sleepy Hollow, and they're having a great time. I think they're going to go to Helen's tomorrow. They're just a fantastic bunch of crew. They are 2 school teachers that during the year teach shop, of all things, woodworking and metal, but they're history nerds, and they spend their summers going to historic locations all over the country. It's sort of a little bit, if you see their episodes, they're a little like diners, drive-ins, and drives, in that they just pick these places and they get some very informal kind of fun footage just to encourage people to visit. So, so if you see a gold Cadillac driving around, that's who they are.
That's cool.
And the chamber is started today, and yesterday we'll be doing some more still photos that we are going to start promoting West Concord on our new chamber Facebook page. We have migrated to a business page, and we'll also be doing in the next few weeks videos from different merchants that are chamber members that will be posting and encouraging everyone to shop in West Concord and perhaps park here in Concord and take the shuttle over to West Concord, the trolley.
That's great.
So the chamber will be trying to get some business to go over there also.
Just a question, Marcia, maybe you know, I'm assuming there's no construction on the weekends, but that those 2 events that you mentioned in particular, September 24th and the Discover West Concord Day, are we making sure that we're minimizing the impact of what we can for those weekends?
I believe Justin Richardson is the engineer project manager, and we'll be coordinating with him, yes. As far as I know, there is no night schedule that remains to be seen. The hope is that this construction will be completed this fall, but with the delays that have been experienced, they're preparing a backup plan just in case.
Sure. Okay. That sounds great. Cato.
Just one other thing, in September, the business partnership for the first time ever is going to be doing a social. It's the Thursday. I'm not sure what the date is. Jen's on there, but but that's going to be at the new West Concord Tavern. So that might be a good way to promote that as well, with a bunch of people around and invite a bunch of people.
Cool.
When's that opening?
Well,
December.
August is supposed to be, but it's
Cool.
getting pushed back as they kind of get delayed by other stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, but I think that's, yeah, well, I know we would, I think looks like it might be the 8th, but we might be pushing that back
That's
for
cool.
the social thing.
Yeah, great ideas. And in the magazine, I think we'll make sure we highlight on the West Concord map that businesses are open during construction, and there's parking and the shuttle, et cetera. So we'll do what we can to highlight that too. So, all right. Well, let's dive into, Mark, you did a fantastic job putting together the conversations and thoughts this group has had over the last couple of months. I was thrilled and delighted to hear of the town's, making some important steps happen towards an economic vitality officer. And I know, Mary, thank you. I know you're passing along a lot of the sort of encouragement and enthusiasm for that officer. But we did think it would be collectively helpful to just put our thoughts. We've had many conversations over the months into a letter that could be shared with the select board. Mark, do you want to just kind of walk us through and if you have any questions or clarifications you're looking for, if folks had comments on it, we can discuss that. And then if it looks good, I think it would be great to get this out to the select board and Mary.
It should go to Carrie as well.
Go to Carrie as well. Okay, yeah, that was
Are
one of
you,
them.
Jennifer, I think you're aware the timing for the Economic Vitality Director has been pulled in by about a year, so we're looking.
Yes, I saw that. That's fantastic news.
So we're looking to hire in October, I believe. So yeah, that's very good news.
That's great. Thank you. I know a lot of people, a lot of groups, a lot of voices went into that. And I just want to say how thrilled I am to hear this support for
Me too.
tourism and businesses. And I know a lot of people put a lot of hours into that. So thank you. All right, Mark, why don't you go ahead and lead this part?
Just as a follow-up, so I'm sorry if I missed it, but so from a fiscal planning perspective, are we all set?
Well, originally it was going to be in the FY24 budget, but what Carrie decided to do is to allocate ARPA funds in FY23. So the short answer is yes.
So in other words, what you put together, Mark, based on everyone's conversations, is now probably going to be a really helpful guide
Yes.
in that hiring process, which is happening now to bring someone in for October.
So just as a follow-up, Mary, so when it comes to, key, sort of job responsibilities and experience, when and how does that get shaped? Do we know?
Well, first of all, we're going to start recruiting in October, Jennifer. I don't know when we'll actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Because Carrie is on vacation and then she's in the midst of reorganizing the town staff. So there will be probably in October, we'll be looking at the job description. So, I mean, any input that you have is valuable.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the letter that Mark drafted may very well be extremely helpful in putting that job description together.
Yeah, the ways we're thinking about it is, what are the short-term things we want? What are the longer-term things? How much inward work do we need? How much external, ambassador work do we need? So that's one way to shape it, but I know you've already put a lot of thought into it, so you can just go with what you've got.
Yeah, and I think that does encapsulate what you're talking about. I would also really recommend, maybe if the group is happy with this draft, I'd love to also share it with the business partnership and the chamber and invite them to also add their thoughts. I think that might be helpful to the hiring committee or group.
Well, it's really Carrie LaFleur's responsibility to hire somebody. And
Okay.
So there's not a committee or a group, but she's open to input, but it's her final decision based on the candidates that, the hiring process.
Yeah, sure.
Jen,
Mark?
the business partnership has already sent at least, I think, 2 letters on this topic.
Yep.
Mhm.
The chamber, I haven't seen anything from those guys, but, I think that what we should talk about is, I feel like a teacher who's given homework. I mean, you all have your homework assignment, if you will. You've all seen the draft. And now it's just a question of how and what's appropriate for this committee to formalize and then to send the letter. And I don't know is the answer.
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's discuss the letter now. And everyone's had a chance to look at it. If we're happy with it, we'll take a vote. And then if we vote, we'll send it to Terry. So Mark, do you want to, first of all, does anyone have any comments? Have you all had a chance to look through the letter? It went out yesterday. So might not have
I've
had
had a little bit of time. I have not had time to read through it all.
right.
I just saw it like a couple hours ago, but
Yeah.
it looks, from what I see, it looks awesome.
So Jen, I think one of the things we could do is we could just, and again, I don't know how this works with open meeting laws or what have you, and have to hear about that, but I think if the board, sort of agrees with substantially what the letter presents, then I think a few of us could finalize it, meaning that that we wouldn't materially change it, but we probably maybe make it a little bit less verbose in certain areas and polish it up a little bit.
Well, we have to be careful about open meeting law. So, yeah, I mean, I think it could be given a grammar check. And Don, sorry.
I actually wouldn't cut anything, Mark. I think your thoroughness is fantastic, and bringing in examples from surrounding towns and expressing benefits and, detriments if it's not done. It would just be taking off in the introductory paragraph, the bit about the budget, since that has already been established. And then there were a couple of blanks where you were looking to confirm numbers of visitors, I think, and there was another blank, let's double check this thing. But I don't know that I would
like
cut
the
any of your
examples.
points.
Yeah, I think it's very thorough. I think it's very helpful.
I would just do a grammar check and fact check those couple of spots where you've indicated we want to double check the numbers, and then remove the bit about the budget, since that's amazing that ARPA funds will be used for this position.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Well, then why don't we just skim through and talk about the blanks in the areas where, so for example, in that first paragraph, partway down, you say, in coordination with the town manager, create a process or pathway where our committee or members of our committee can provide input from the business community, select board, and our town manager as applicable, and the search for and vetting of candidates for key hires in the town, such as. And
so I guess, Jen, one discussion to have is that the letter really touches upon two issues. First, the committee's recommendation about hiring and then shaping the EVO. And then secondly, the notion that this group would work with either the select board or the town manager to provide future input on key town hires. They're two drastically different topics. I want everyone to know that, although 90% of the letter discusses, the EVO, there is 10% of the letter which touches upon the second piece, and the second piece being this sort of business community input on really important hires that directly affect the business community and the tourism community, to be candid.
would it be helpful to perhaps break these into two different conversations? There's just such positive momentum on the economic vitality role that I'd really like to get. You've got fantastic, summary of all the key things we've been looking for in that person. Maybe have a really positive experience collaborating around this individual, and then use that momentum to show the value of involving this committee when there are hires that have an impact on business and or tourism. Is it important to mention both of them in the same correspondence, or should we use a sort of two-track approach? What do people think?
I think if we don't say we want to give input to this particular position, we won't necessarily be invited to do so.
So
I agree, but I think Mark's
So
saying that
if we could
wanna
even
say
limit
we
the,
want impact on all key stuff,
I
right?
think
Or
the history of Don was really, I don't know where it is, but Gabby's replacement, Marcia's replacement, sometime in the future, Kerry's replacement, maybe the assistant town manager. It's sort of those types of roles that affect transportation, zoning, et cetera, where I think separate from the EVO, the business community would like to, maybe codify what's been done in the past as far as having business community representation in the, sort of vetting and selection process.
sure, I understood that. I misunderstood. I thought Jennifer was saying to not express that we would like to give input to the selection of the EVO?
No, I
candidate.
was saying rather than lead with a, hey, we want to have a seat at the table for all key hires, to just kind of focus and say, we appreciate the opportunity to have a voice on what we consider to be this really critical role, go through this process, and then use that momentum to say, gee, this is great. We'd really like to continue to have some say on key positions.
Can I just, I want to set the right expectation here. The hiring decisions are the decision of the town manager.
Mhm.
And we have a very strong town manager form of government here in Concord. And any committee and all committees can give input into what they think the roles and responsibilities of a given position are. And the process to do that would be to write a letter to the town manager, to the select board, and have these types of conversations. I guess I'm a little bit confused about what beyond that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it might not be necessary to.
Yeah, because I think history has shown what we've just experienced in these last few months is that when you get together and you make your voice heard, it's heard.
Yeah,
And the proof is that, and again, the work that the Concord Business Partnership did as far as the forum at the Colonial Inn, bringing in economic development folks from surrounding towns was really effective. So, I mean, you've done a lot of good work, and we're winning. Okay, we've got
Okay.
the position, it's funded. So yeah, I think we should maybe rest with that.
yeah. Okay, great. I'm just going to skim through, Mark, and look at the areas where you were looking for clarification. Beth, you do have data that shows that we regularly see more than a million visitors a year. We have that from multiple sources, so that's fine to say. Trying to see where else. Mark, were there any other areas where oh wait, I see something about here, check. On the very last page, expand our commercial property tax base and town revenue. Healthy businesses will increase building owner revenues and will further build and strengthen the town's commercial tax base, which has been shrinking over the past 10 years. Is that true? Where did you get that data from, Mark?
So anecdotally, I think the commercial base is, if you look at 10 years ago, I think it was in the area of 7 or 8%. I think it's now in 5 or 6% area. But it's not.
Is that because the commercial tax base is shrinking or because property values have increased?
Good question.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So maybe we just rephrase it to say, further build and strengthen the town's commercial tax base, potentially alleviating the burden on citizen property holders.
Yeah, what did I specifically try to avoid that conclusion? I don't want to get to the point where business should be subsidizing.
Okay. Well, then why don't we just say and strengthen the town's commercial tax base, period.
Okay.
Okay. Were there any other areas where you were looking for clarified information, Mark?
No, so are we going to delete the second part of the letters that we're going to do? Just make it focus solely on the EVO?
The second part of the letter?
Yeah, so the letter's broken into two pieces. The sort of the EVO and the second piece, which is a very small piece. Only
Oh yeah, we probably want to delete that.
the issues, the hires.
I think so, because of Mary's comment. I think we're good there. So would someone like to, like, do we need to vote on sending this? Like, what I would like to do is just make those tiny edits, give it a quick little grammar check, and then send it on its way. What do we think? Can I have do we need to vote on this? Can someone propose a vote?
I propose a vote to make these small edits. Mark, if you can do that, or if you want to pass it to another set of eyes.
I'm also happy to take care of
Yeah.
it. I'll literally do it tonight and send it. It's fine.
And send it around. Can we? I'd like to see it before I
Mhm.
put my name to it. I'd like to see the edits, even though we've talked about them and they're very simple, and it really is just removing a few things.
Mhm. That's fine, as long as you only respond to one person. Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
What
So,
about putting a time frame on the motion?
well, I think we're gonna vote on it right now and
No, but I
say,
mean, put a time frame on when the adjustments
send it
and the
out by
edits will
Friday.
be done.
well, I can send it out within a half an hour of this meeting being over. Can we get edits back by end of day Friday? Be done with it?
Yeah,
Okay,
Why don't you say tomorrow and then you can send it on Friday?
It's
sure.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's not
I
gonna,
mean, we all know what's coming and it should be fairly easy and people can send a vote back to you, yay or nay, when they see the edits.
I don't think we can actually vote that way. No.
No. Well,
I
then
think
you,
what we need to do is have a motion that says the letter, as we discussed it, will be given a grammar check. The small edits that we discussed in person will be integrated. The letter will be circulated to the committee. You must respond with any clarifications by end of day tomorrow, and the letter will be sent to the town manager on Friday. Can I have a motion? Can I get a motion?
You got a motion for what you just said.
Can I get a second?
second,
Okay, I'm gonna
Second
go
kudos.
around in a circle now. Steve, how do you vote?
oh, why?
I say aye. Mark?
Yes.
Beth? Aye. Cato?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Marie?
aye.
Jen?
Aye.
The motion carries. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. Well done, sir. Okay. Ah, okay, trying to look through. So this is interesting. We've actually achieved a pretty monumental thing as a town here. We happen to have on our agenda, brainstorming for the rest of the year, what we should be doing now. Mark?
So it's a little bit of a related topic, and I think that the Thoreau Business District zoning amendments might be a good example of maybe a disconnection between business community and planners and what have you. So thematically, I think that, and I know there were a number of meetings. I know that, it was a year to 18-month process, but it just, to me, didn't feel like it ever had the traction, the support, the exchange of ideas that maybe it should have to make something like that more successful. And so I'm just wondering, again, conceptually, it's sort of similar like to conversation we just had, and that is, how does the business community funnel and channel input to the town manager on key hires? Here it's, how does the business community really funnel and channel input to boards or to Marcia's department on big projects where, the public is looking at the process and it doesn't really go maybe the way people thought it was going to go. From a town perspective, I don't think anyone in the town thinks that it was a successful example of planning, for lack of a better word. I just think it's an example.
Well, there was a very vocal citizen group who heavily invested in, sharing their perspective and maybe.
But Jen, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that the whole thing was premised on a landowner selling its land or leasing its land or developing a whole bunch of units, which scared people to such a point that became a rallying cry. And a lot of the conversation was just based on how many visitors and how much traffic. And, there were some really good concepts as far as mixed use and residential, adding residential capacity in that area, that it got totally destroyed because someone decided to premise the whole thing on redeveloping Crosby's.
I don't
Again, I'm not
disagree with
judging,
you,
I'm
Mark,
just
but I
saying-
wonder if that's really in the purvey of this committee. Like, you have to remember, our mandate is about connecting tourism and a dynamic, robust, retail business. I don't know, I don't really, I mean,
Well,
I don't know what we.
Directly affect retail.
So what would you like this committee to do then, Mark, in that situation?
If I may, this all started even before COVID was, and was in discussion, and we had very few, the planning division did a lot of outreach to the business community. We met with business owners and property owners prior to even starting the conversation about rezoning the Thoreau Business District. It was a concept that came out of the 2018 Envision Concord plan. And there was not as high a level of participation as we had hoped. We did early morning meetings, we did late afternoon. We tried to make it very easy for people to participate, and they didn't. And then MAPC, worked with this concept and went in a whole nother direction. And then it was the amount of misinformation that was put out there, and the lies that were spread were just, the planning board was too nice. They should have called the people out to say, no, you're wrong. But they didn't. And they tried to address all of the issues as they came up. And so, the two opponents were, well, they would ask one way, and then the other partner would ask a different way. And there was a lack of faith or understanding or whatever. So you tell me, what is the best way to have that conversation with businesses and property owners that about change, about what they want to see, about how they want to redevelop or rebuild, because many of those structures are reaching a point where it's going to happen. And so if we live with the zoning that we have in place today, we won't be able to replace what is there.
Yeah, I agree, Marcia. I mean, you guys did a great job of hosting many public forums.
It was a challenging time,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I want to kind of put a pause here, because I think we just need to back up a little bit. I think we need to focus on what this committee's mandate is. We were talking about things like, how can we, while we're looking for an economic vitality officer, how can we very quickly and simply create like a landing page on the website where it's easy to find resources when you want to consider being a business in Concord, that type of thing.
And Jennifer, if I'm sorry to interrupt, but if it would be very helpful, very beneficial if the conversation could occur between the planning board members and people on this committee, because they are talking about bringing back elements of the Thoreau Business District that they thought were valuable and important. And so if they heard from people like you that those elements are good, please bring them back, they would do it. They're a little shell-shocked, granted, but if this group were to say, we feel that it's really, really important to have X, Y, and Z, maybe it's not the whole shebang, but have the conversation. I think it's a worthwhile one. So sorry for
Okay.
interrupting.
No, go ahead then. That's fine.
Can I add something, Jennifer?
Sure.
Thank you. You mentioned before that the charge for this committee is to focus on retail sustainability and tourism, right?
It's
So,
one of our charges, yeah.
well, it's actually, I'm looking at the charge and it's asking to focus on retail sustainability and tourism. So I think, and if we can change that if you want to broaden the charge, but if you want to stay within this charge, any kind of input that you want to put into the planning board or to the forums that's your strong suit, I guess is what I'm saying. That really is your strong suit. Those are there's where you have the strongest voice and where you're the advocates for those important parts of the town's economic vitality. So to put a voice into the Thoreau redistricting, which may or may not come up again this year, I hope it does come up eventually. I think for now, those are the channels that you come in on. That's just my.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say before.
Okay, sorry.
I feel like we're getting a little
Yeah, we're getting off.
derailed, but
Yeah, we are.
no
Sorry.
no pun intended, but Don, go ahead.
So procedurally, can that planning board reach out to us for support and ask to present something and ask for our weight behind something that they're proposing? Rather than us go searching for,
Oh, absolutely.
or us making the
Yeah.
decision whether or not we're going to put our, collective minds behind it.
I think it would be great. I will extend the invitation if there's interest.
Sure. Hi, Mike. I'm glad you could join us. Hello.
Hello, I had unmitigated computer problems with my corrupted Zoom app. I apologize. I kept getting sent to various meetings where none of you were there. I was so hopelessly confused.
Well,
Nice to be here.
I do want to take a minute to welcome you to the committee and thank you so much for joining us. Your expertise and your voice are warmly welcome.
Well, it's great to see everybody. Look forward to it. Steve, how are you feeling?
Feeling good, feeling good.
All right. All right. Well, we've gotten through a lot of this today. Trying to think about where we go from here. Do we want to, we were supposed to be brainstorming today about, how to consolidate online resources for prospective new businesses. Do we have the energy for that? Do we want to do that in our September meeting? How are people feeling? We've been.
The one thing that we talked about, and we probably could go back to the notes, but the minutes, whatever. We had talked about things like the fast food bylaw, and we had sort of talked some stuff around some of those bylaw changes. That was right before John left us. So we have to maybe go back to those minutes and see what we had discussed there. But I remember we talked about the fast food bylaw, and I think we were talking a little bit about sort of types of businesses in Concord as well, but something just to think about moving forward.
Yeah, I guess with the wonderful news from the town that this economic vitality officer has been sort of fast tracked, if you will, I don't want to see a person come into the role with a list of sort of obligated thoughts. I want to give that person the ability to lead the charge on some of this.
And that almost feels partially what their role with that online guide would be too, truthfully.
Yeah. Well, so maybe we maybe we stop here for today. We did a lot. We're getting that letter out to the town manager today. The one other thing I did want to discuss is that almost all of us started on this committee right around the same time. And I think almost all of us have our terms coming up or have already had their term come up and they're still here. So we need to think about what people want to do moving forward, who's going to stay on, who might not be, and think about skill sets that we need to pull on. And I think, Dawn, you had a really good idea of maybe staggering, rolling off so that we don't have a completely new committee at the beginning of next year. So do we want to talk about that at all?
I thought we had already decided we would do a staggered renewal, I guess.
Yeah.
So that we don't lose 3/4 of the committee in the same month.
Yeah.
As long as the town takes a partial, I don't know if that's a formal commitment when you sign if you have to sign a new green card or if you just automatically re-up. If you state the amount of time rather than renewing for 3 years, whether it be a 2-year term or a 1-year term.
It will be up to the select board to do that. And it would be great if you had a sense of who would like to go for 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years more. But the select board is responsible for reappointing all of you to the Economic Vitality Task Committee.
Okay. So I actually need to share with the committee. I think I'm gonna have to step off at the end of this year. I've just had several other really big projects come up, and I've been happy to sort of carry the torch when John jumped. But I think I'm gonna need to let it go at least, partway into next year. So I did want to put that out there. And maybe we can start thinking about who might like to take over as chair. So have a thought. We could talk about it some more. I'm happy to stay on through the end of the year and a little bit into next year if needed, but it's going to be hard to keep going after that on this committee.
The terms would end at town meeting. Traditionally, that's what I know. It'd be very helpful to the select board if they had a piece of paper from this committee saying, here's the people for 3, as Marcia, here for 2, and here's 1. That would be helpful to them.
Okay.
Yes.
Mark?
So, Mike, how does it work? Are there, did we all sign on for a certain term? And just mechanically, is it a situation where we can, pick 1, 2, and 3, or do we literally figure that out and just set a spreadsheet saying, here's what we would like?
Well, I suggest that we put together a spreadsheet and then share it with Mary, because she's here and she could provide some guidance. But yeah, some people for 3, some for 2, some for 1. And
I started looking back through the select board minutes actually, and several of us, our terms technically expired in May.
Yeah, the town clerk can help you with that as well, Jen.
Oh, okay, great.
The town clerk has that info, so you can get a list of all the people that have been appointed and when their terms expire.
Okay.
Yeah, Jen, I think
Anything
she
about
actually.
term limits?
Yeah, Jennifer, she sent it to me not too long ago, so I can find it.
Great.
I don't
Okay.
have it.
Thanks.
There are technically term limits,
Yeah.
2 terms, but because we have such a long list of vacancies, we've been relaxing that a little bit. I think this committee also needs to start recruiting new people, because you're a 13-member committee. And
can I ask Jennifer, you've already discussed, is it the letter that Mark sent around?
Yes, we had, that was the first half
That was
hour.
very nicely drafted.
Did you have any substantial changes?
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought it was a
just
great letter.
Everybody loves it. So we're gonna just do a quick grammar check on it.
Yeah.
Send it out one more time to make sure everyone's comfortable. Comments are due back end of day tomorrow, and then we'll send it to the town manager's office on Friday.
That's great. And she knows it's coming?
Well, she will.
No,
I'll
I'm
make,
serious.
I'll make sure she notices it when she comes back from vacation.
Vacation, yeah.
So Jen, do we have a to-do list of, or a priority list? I know that John had come up with one we had come up with one in the past, but do we have some basis for what we think we're going to be working on in the next few months, or is that the point to brainstorm about that?
I think that's the point, to brainstorm about that. I think none of us were expecting to get the economic vitality officer approved so quickly. So that's great news, but why don't we open the next meeting with a brainstorm about that? Because I think that's important. All right, so for next time, we will have a list of when everyone's term's expiring. Please think about from now until then, how long you'd like to stay on, so we can start creating a matrix of when people are rolling off or staying on. And then we should also think about the skill sets that we'd like to see recruiting, so that we can be doing that and filling in the committee. Does that sound good to everybody?
Then if we have recommendations for new members, do we send those to you, Mary?
No.
No.
No, I will bring them up in front of the select board, but it's Jennifer and I think that will work on that. I've been talking to some people, and everybody should talk to some people, but I'll bring them to the select board, but it's really Jennifer that decides if they fit in. If that's filling
Yeah.
a need that you have.
Okay, great. Mike?
Did you set a date for the September meeting?
Yes. We're going to start meeting the third week of the month, because we want to be sensitive to the Concord Business Partnership meetings. There's some board meetings, et cetera. So it'll be the third week of each month. And we're going to alternate between an 8:30 a.m. meeting or a noon meeting every other month, because we have both retail, restaurants, and service industries.
Sure.
And that'll just help us. So we'll start, shall we start an 8:30 meeting in September, and then we'll go noon, 8:30 back and forth from there? Okay. All right, and I can go ahead and get a tentative agenda on the schedule for the meetings from now through the end of the year, so that we know the dates and the times. I'll keep it fairly generic, and if we need to make any updates based on one meeting to another, we can revise the agenda, but that way it's on the calendar. Okay. I see we have at least one member of the public with us today. Did you have any comments or anything you'd like to ask the committee before we head out?
No, thank you. I'm sorry I'm not able to join by video today.
It's okay.
And I guess I'm the other member of the public.
Yes, hi.
Hi. Great meeting. You guys are doing amazing work. And I'm a resident of West Concord, and I grew up in Concord. So this is in my wheelhouse. So I'm very interested in what you guys are doing. And I'm super excited about that there's going to be an economic vitality officer. That's good.
Can I make a recommendation, Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
That you talk to Xana about maybe coming onto the committee?
I was just thinking the same thing.
So Xana and I met, I don't know, 2 months ago. And I think she would be a tremendous asset. So I did talk to her about this. So I'm glad you're here. But I think you guys should have a conversation about it, because I think she would add. She's got the creative part, but she also has a great business sense as well.
Could you connect us by email then, Beth?
I certainly can.
Thanks.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah.
You got it.
Okay. Mark.
So what's the process? Is it members are going to submit names and, for lack of better sort of bullet points as to persons, how does it work? Do we vote, or how does the process work?
Well, you would submit a recommendation along with a brief description of why you think that person would be good for the committee. And then we can have a conversation about it. If it seems like a good fit, we would want the input of the committee. So sure, we present that person, and then if we all think it's a great idea, we send that name along to Mary, and she could submit the name to the select board. All right. Are there any other comments, questions, suggestions, insights? Yes.
Jennifer, the charge is pretty prescriptive as far as what the membership will be. So that's another piece to consider when you're vetting recommendations for new members.
That's a good point.
I would just like to say thank you to Mark.
Yeah, great job,
Getting the
Mark.
letter
Really,
done.
thank you.
It's been a lot of months of talk and working, and Mark, you did a fabulous job.
I was happy to, work on and finalize the Cato Anderson letter.
Oh, you've been outed, Cato.
Oh,
Well, whoever did it, everyone, both of you worked on it together, and it specifies exactly what we want it to say. So good job to everyone who worked on it.
Excellent. Okay, guys, anything else to discuss today? Or are we good? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, all right. I'll do
I
roll
second.
call. Okay, Steve? Aye. Okay, I'll vote aye. Mark?
Yeah.
Yep. Beth?
Yeah, Ellen's been going.
Cato?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Marie?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And Jen?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everyone. We'll see you in September. Take care.
You guys.
Bye.